All right, Mike Farrell, Adam Gorney here, Godfather and Gorney podcast. Neither of us shaved for this, but yours looks better than mine because you're younger than I am. But Alabama wins, no surprise. Your takeaways from the game?
Yeah, it was complete dominance, I thought. I mean, the offense was moving so easily. There was like no stopping Alabama's offense. They could really just do whatever they pleased at any point against a very good defense. I know they were missing some guys because of COVID. I don't think it would have mattered at all. DeVonta Smith looked like an NFL receiver. John Mechie looks like an NFL receiver. Najee Harris looks like the best running back ever to play the game. Everybody just looked like they were completely doing exactly as they were expected to do. They made almost no mistakes except for the Mac Jones fumble. It was a phenomenal performance, and I really do think that might be Nick Saban's best team.
Yeah, I think, again, we talk about this, that, and the other. I don't know if it is. Offensively, I think it's his best team. And that includes last year's team, which had Ruggs and Judy in addition to DeVonta Smith and Najee. But defensively, I'm not sure.
Yeah.
I think there's been other Alabama teams that have been more balanced. But when you talk about the great defenses, then you talk about Alabama running the ball with Derrick Henry and, being a run first offense and quarterbacks being game managers. And that's not the case there anymore. So Mac Jones was very impressive. There's a narrative that he's an underrated kid that nobody wanted to throw in the class with Tua, which is crap. I was on a full ride today with Chris Childers and Rick Neuheisel, and I said that was crap. He was number 159 in the country and a four-star kid, plenty of offers. We saw him numerous times. I think what he was doing was playing 7-on-7 football all season long because of that offensive line. He had so much time, such a clean pocket. And we all have seen 7-on-7 a billion times. And, they count you down. That's how you get a sack in 7-on-7. There's no pass rush whatsoever. You have a clear line of vision to everybody, and the receivers have tons of time to get open, single move, double moves. And that's kind of why I don't think Tua is going to be good in the NFL, despite being so good at Alabama. And I'm not crapping on Mac. I just don't think he's going to be a first round talent. I think the talent around him in the offensive line makes the difference for Alabama.
Yeah, I don't think he's a first round talent, but I do think he could run an NFL offense. He's never going to have an offensive line anywhere in the NFL that's as protective there. And I also have to give Steve Sarkisian a lot of credit for the plays. Those crossing routes were impossible to stop. That first touchdown to DeVonta Smith, where it looked like he was going in motion, then came back. He was wide open. It's pretty easy to call plays when you have Najee Harris and Mac Jones, DeVonta Smith, Mechie, Billingsley, Forrestall. Waddle on one leg looked faster than the Ohio State defense. But those are pretty inventive play calls too. A lot of them Ohio State had no answer. And Kerry Coombs is a brilliant guy and a great defensive coach. And there was nothing that they could do to stop them. It was really impressive. And if Alabama really wanted to pour it on in the second half, which they didn't, they kind of played ball control and ran the clock a little bit. They could have made that look a whole lot worse.
Yeah, so here's an interesting topic, I think, that people are afraid to broach. What's the difference between Ohio State and Notre Dame? Other than the national championship that they won with Cardell, what was that, now 6 years ago?
Yeah.
I mean, they got croaked by Alabama, and Notre Dame got croaked by Alabama. Nobody's saying Ohio State didn't belong or they were outmatched or they'll never win the big one. But it was the same exact score that Alabama beat Texas A&M in the game earlier this season. Same exact score, and they dominated Ohio State in a similar fashion to the way Notre Dame was dominated. Now, I know it was 21-14 at one point and all that good stuff, but why this narrative that Notre Dame is outmatched and Ohio State is not when they were clearly outmatched?
Well, I'll tell you this, and it was a different game though. When Alabama beat Notre Dame, what was that, 2 games ago or whatever?
Mm-hmm.
It felt like Alabama got up early. It was 14-0, and they said Notre Dame can't score 14 on us. We don't need to do anything else. And so we're just going to not do a whole lot else. They only scored 31 in that game. The offense really wasn't clicking as well. Now, that might have been Notre Dame's defense being much better than we expected it to be, and them having a little more team speed than we thought they were going to be. Or it could have been Alabama saying, we're not going to show Notre Dame a whole lot. We're not going to show Clemson or Ohio State a whole lot here. And then they showed everything to Ohio State. Ohio State's a little bit different, I think. I mean, they have more team speed. They have better receivers. They definitely had a better quarterback who was probably playing at least injured at best yesterday. I mean, he took that one shot and he started grabbing his side and showed a lot of courage there. But I do get your point. My concern is that college football is not 4 teams up there or 5 teams competing. It's 1 team and then 4 teams or 5 teams. And the USA Today wrote something today, which I thought was completely absurd and ridiculous. And they said, how do we stop Alabama from kind of ruining college football? This isn't ruining it. It's making it so much more interesting to see if anybody can even compete with them. They were talking about equity in recruiting and not allowing Alabama to sign the players they want, and almost buying Saban out of his contract so he can't coach anymore. Is that the path that we want to take in college football? So look, Alabama didn't win the national title last year. I don't believe they won it the year before. It's been a little stretchier, but that team that we saw last night, it was a special one. They're going to be special again in the years to come. Bryce Young is, I would say, probably a more dynamic quarterback than Mac Jones. They're going to be very good. So let's see if Ohio State and Notre Dame and Clemson and Oklahoma and those teams can compete with them.
And I'm just playing devil's advocate. I mean, they had a close game against Clemson.
Right.
They lost. They won the national championship against Alabama, with Cardell Jones and Ezekiel Elliott leading the way there. But they also got waxed by Clemson. I think it was 31-0. And now they've been waxed by Alabama. So, I guess because of a close loss to Clemson and of course the national championship, but when does that fade? I mean, that was 2014. It's just, to me, it's unfair to Notre Dame.
Yeah.
Just because, they get so much criticism, and it's harder for Notre Dame to get there. Let's not forget that they have academic restrictions that Ohio State would never even dream of having. So Brian Kelly has to put together a roster of smart kids who pass academic standards at Notre Dame and get off to the national championship or the playoff and get smoked. But when Ohio State gets smoked, nobody talks about it. So that's a little bit pro Notre Dame. And I'm not anti-Ohio State at all. I didn't think they belonged to the playoff because they didn't play enough games. But it's clear now, after they beat Clemson, they belonged in the playoff. And they would have done the same thing A&M would have done. A&M probably would have lost to Clemson. And I think they would have got waxed by Alabama. But I just think that narrative that, Notre Dame gets there and they shouldn't even waste a spot on Notre Dame when, 2 out of the last 3 games in the playoff, Ohio State's been destroyed. So was it a real shot to put finish Notre Dame 5th? I thought that was a little cheap shot there. Yeah, but who cares about final polls? Nobody.
Yeah, that's true.
Crap. So Alabama, this is not going to change. We don't have to come on, there's been dynasties before.
The show Dynasty, that was a good show.
In sports, there's been dynasties, and you didn't put any limitations on what the Boston Celtics could do, with Bill Russell when they won, 9 out of 10 championships in a decade. And, there have been programs that have won multiple Super Bowls. The Cowboys won 3, and the Patriots 3 and 4 years, I think. The Patriots 6 over whatever. You don't punish them for winning. Parity eventually occurs, and Alabama has no advantage here other than the fact that they put kids in the first round of the NFL draft and they win national championships. And you know what? If another team won 6 national championships over what's it been, 12 years that Saban's been there?
I believe, yeah.
And put kids in the first round every year, they would be the team that would be dominating. And let's not forget, Clemson has won 2 national championships in the last, 5 years?
5 years, yeah.
So, the fact or fiction today was, will someone other than Alabama, Ohio State, or Clemson be in the championship next year? I forget what my answer is because I don't even remember half the stuff I do. But I think we both agreed that no, that
No, I agree. I said Oklahoma will make it.
okay. So you
Oklahoma and
said
Georgia have real
I think I
shots.
said fiction. And again, I came out with my top 10, and we'll talk about that, which I'm sure you didn't look at.
I studied it.
What's that?
I studied it from top to bottom.
Who's number one?
Georgia.
No, you didn't even
No.
look at it. You son of a bitch. It's or Oklahoma's number one
Yeah.
preseason. Georgia's number two. Alabama's number three. And everybody's like, I would imagine they're thinking, why on earth would you ever put Alabama number three? You know,
Yes. Why would you do that?
I have to see Bryce Young effective. And,
Okay.
Again, this year I had Clemson as my number one team because of quarterback play. And I thought Bryce would win the job from Mac Jones, and I was way wrong on that. And I can't pronounce his name, but Tony at our Alabama site could gloat over me all day because he said that Mac would and put up these crazy numbers, and he was right, and I was wrong. But quarterback play is what it comes down to. They're losing Najee, they're losing Waddle, they're losing DeVonta Smith, they're losing
Leatherwood.
Mac, they're losing Dickerson, they're losing Leather. Well, now again, I know they rebuild, and they don't rebuild; they actually just reload. But I can't put them number one with all those losses, and they'll probably go undefeated and win the national championship again. But Oklahoma doesn't lose really anybody. Their defense is so improved. Rattler is got a year under his belt. That offense is amazing. I got Georgia too with JT Daniels. Lots of weapons there. James Cook, your boy Kendall Milton.
Yep.
I think the receivers, your guy Burton, are young and talented. Of course, Pickens, and their defense is going to be good. So after three, and then it was Clemson 4. So Oklahoma is the one outlier, and I have them first. Then Ohio State, same old teams. And then you've got A&M, which has no shot because they're in the same division as.
Who's the quarterback at Ohio State next year? CJ Stroud?
Yeah, that's what I wrote. I mean, CJ Stroud is the guy who's going to step in, I think.
Yeah, I think he's fantastic.
I think he's going to be very good. And I think their offense is going to be very good. And I think, honestly, their secondary is going to be better. They've got some young guys that I think are going to develop. And this year, I think their secondary was their big weakness. And their linebackers, too. I mean, they had big linebackers, physical linebackers, but they weren't the fastest guys in the world.
As we saw last night, was it Pete Warner or Tough Borland? He's chugging.
But that's so unfair. I mean,
it is unfair. It is unfair.
That play call, that was Sarkisian. And again, to your point about Sarkisian, I mean, Kiffin's play calling when they won the national championship was unbelievable as well.
Yeah, it was.
The one thing Ohio State didn't do offensively, which they needed to do more, was to use the tight end down the middle. It worked on that one play with Rucker, but
yeah,
you've got to attack the middle against Alabama, and they didn't do it well enough. But Fields was getting pressured constantly. I mean, Christian Barmore just made himself millions. He's awesome.
My God,
he's so good, and he's going to be a top 15 pick now, and deservedly so. But that pocket was pushed consistently. And Mac's pocket was not, save for the one play where he fumbled. So,
you know what's crazy too? I want to say this because I remember it off the top of my head before I forget. When we saw DeVonta Smith at Army at the All-American Bowl, Shaun Wade got physical with him. Shaun Wade stayed step for step with him, and now they look like two different players. And that is just development. I mean, Saban recruits. Yes, he gets great players. But then he makes them like 10 times better, not just decently better. I mean, DeVonta Smith worked Shaun Wade, worked Sevyn Banks yesterday. And DeVonta Smith at Army he was a good player, but it wasn't like we are watching the greatest college wide receiver of all time here.
No, but he was also 160 pounds. And you remember the famous video of LeCount throwing him over the bench. And what I liked about DeVonta Smith, even though he was so little, and we had him as a top 50 guy, and he was in the 5-star discussion because he was such a great route runner and so fluid. I like the fact that nothing ever bothered him.
Right.
LeCount, that was a Bush League move. And DeVonta Smith was just like, whatever.
Right.
And then the next year he catches, the touchdown to win the national championship. Nothing bothers him. But remember, Wade switched positions this year too. Now you'd think by now he would have adjusted, but again, they only played a short handful of games. What was it? This is their 8th game now.
Yeah.
They have him playing off. He's not good at press. I think Wade, fell out of the first round this year. But some of the schemes, to get DeVonta Smith across the middle,
Yeah.
or on that play where he was in motion, to get him singled up, I don't know how the defense allows that to happen. I just don't. Like, let Michi beat you.
Right.
Let everybody else, waddle, on one leg.
Yeah.
Make sure you pay a lot of attention to DeVonta Smith. And he had 12 catches for 230 something yards in the first half.
Three touchdowns. Yeah.
He would have put up 400 yards and probably 6 touchdowns had he not injured his finger. But the defensive scheme, and I do like Kerry Coombs. I think he's a very good defensive coach, and he's put a lot of defensive backs in the first round of the NFL draft, but they just didn't have the guys. And even up front, even if they were healthy up front, they didn't have. There was no Chase Young. There was no Boza. There's no freak on the outside. Their defensive tackles over the last many years have been underrated, as far as underappreciated, not underrated. And, they didn't get that push up the middle either. So it's Mac Jones sitting back there with 5 seconds to survey the field and just throw wherever he wants to throw. And that's how it's been all season long. No one can get any pressure on these guys. And you have to credit. I mean, Dickerson goes out. Who'd they put in? Owens at center?
Yeah, no drop off at all.
None. And you've got, other than Leatherwood, what's the catch?
Brown killed it.
No, the other tackle. The 6'8", 330-pound kid who could box jump 42 inches. And I always think of Matt Elam, but it's not Matt Elam. It's oh, you're killing me.
I'm drawing a blank here.
I thought you would know. Hold on. It's so stupid. It's going to come up.
That's supposed to mean you thought I'd know. What am I, some kind of loser?
Something, I mean, I can't carry this team. Evan Neal. And I don't know why,
Evan Neal.
I have Matt Elam in my head.
Oh, 2 players couldn't be more different.
No, but it's like Evan and Elam, and that's how stupid I am. And I need to take like fish oil or some sort of omega-3 or something to get my brain going, because Evan Neal is a top 5 pick in the 2022 draft. And Leatherwood has kind of been up and down this season. He's probably going to be a late first rounder or second rounder. I mean, if Isaiah Wilson from Georgia, who's been an absolute disaster for the Titans, can be a first rounder, I think Leatherwood can be. But Chris Owens pops in at center. Dickerson could be a first rounder. It's crazy. And then, Deontay Brown doesn't get any attention, and he's going to be a 10-year pro. So, that's where they're at there with Alabama.
Okay, let's go down your top 10 list. Oklahoma
1, Georgia 2, Alabama 3.
Okay.
And we'll go through it, and then you disagree with whatever you want. Clemson 4 with DJ.
Yep.
Now again, I don't have Alabama and Georgia both making the playoff. So that's kind of weird, I know. Ohio State 5, I've got them making the playoff with Clemson, and then either Georgia or Alabama and Oklahoma. And then it's A&M, North Carolina, Cincinnati, Florida, and Oregon.
I'm surprised that you put North Carolina behind A&M, because your whole thing is returning quarterbacks aren't going to sell you. And A&M is going to be a little questionable at quarterback, isn't it?
Yes, but here's my point. So UNC is losing their 2 running backs.
Yeah.
And those 2 guys are unbelievable. So let me pull up their stats, because, I mean, people.
I'm sorry, I zoned out. A&M, North Carolina, Cincinnati.
Yeah, they're returning everybody. They got everybody. And then Florida, and then Oregon.
Okay.
Yeah, and Florida is a question mark. Obviously Trask is gone. Emory Jones not sold on. They're losing all their wide receivers, and we see what that can do to you.
Yeah.
But I think, DeMarcus Bowman and Lingard will be able to run the ball better. They'll be better on the offensive line, and they got to be better defensively, even though they kept Grantham. I think they have to be better defensively. So, but when I talk about UNC, I love Sam Howell, no doubt about it.
Definitely.
Man, losing those two running backs is crazy. I mean, you look at the rushing leaders in college football this year. Number 4 is Michael Carter. Number 6 is Javonte Williams. Okay.
And what's crazy is when you think of North Carolina, just off the top of your head, you think Sam Howell's just throwing the ball every play.
Right.
They're not.
And these guys, Carter's averaging 8 yards a carry.
Yeah.
And Javonte Williams averaged 7.3. And
they lost to Florida State. Now tell me how that happens.
The defense is horrendous, and that's also why I have them lower than A&M, because A&M's defense is going to be nasty next
Oh
year.
my God, A&M's defense. I think next year could be sort of Jimbo's year to topple Alabama, at least for 1 year, and here's why.
Well, who's the quarterback?
Exactly what he wants. He's going to run the ball and slow down the game to no end, and the defense is not going to let anybody score a point.
Well, here's the thing. Here's the problem with that. Ready? They're losing everybody on their offensive line. I mean, they lose Carson Green, they lose Jared Hawker, they lose Ryan McCollum, they lose Dan Moore. I mean, Kenyon Green's the only one coming back, and they're all freshmen replacing them. Talented. Remember Chris Morris and some guys like that, Layden Robinson, but they lose 4 of their 5 offensive linemen. They lose Kellen Mond. So that means either Haynes King or Zach Calzada is jumping in there. Neither of them scare me. I love Isaiah Spiller, but he's going to be running behind a new offensive line. And they're skill guys. I mean, Demas, we would expect to take a step up, but the defense loaded, absolutely freaking loaded. But I worry about that offense. So that's why I have them. Because their O-line is what did it this year. Isaiah Spiller was awesome. Mon had time. There were no mistakes made. They had some wide receivers opt out. If they had those, they would have been even better. But that's my concern with A&M is the offense. So I think Bryce Foster plays next season. Boom, right away.
I think so too. I think next college football season is gonna. This year was fun because Trevor came back and Justin Fields and the whole thing, and could Alabama do it with Mac Jones? But next year, they're like. Out of that top 10, there are going to be like 6 teams with new quarterbacks. That's going to be fun to see who kind of emerges as the next guy.
Yeah, and the other reason, I have North Carolina lower is because, again, their defense will be improved, and they'll still have those offensive weapons at wide receiver, but they're going to, lose those 2 running backs. And I just don't think that Howell gets sacked a lot, and that's not his fault, but I like A&M's defense to keep them, in the hunt more so. I think UNC wins their division next year and then plays Clemson, and Clemson's defense is going to be nasty next year. I think much better than this year, and they're going to beat them. So Cincinnati returns everybody. Florida, as I mentioned, they've already got question marks. Oregon, it was either Oregon or USC from the Pac-12, and it's sad that the Pac-12 team is number 10 in my preseason. Oregon needs a quarterback. Tyler Show needs to either step up and develop, or they have to go with the who's the kid, Butterfield or whatever.
Hey, Butterfield,
who's 8 feet tall and the Justin Herbert clone, or our guy, our 5-star from Arizona, jumps right in. But I don't think that'll happen. But they'll play physical, and their defense will be very, very good with Thibodeau and hopefully Flo healthy, and Sewell and all those guys. So that's why I have them. But again, can any of these teams win a national championship? Oklahoma, probably not. They get to the playoff and they always get croaked because of their defense.
But their defense is much better now, albeit against Iowa State and whoever else.
So, and again, the game against Florida, you can't really judge because Florida had no weapons. Georgia can win it all, but they choke. And Kirby, I don't know if he's a national title coach. Alabama can certainly win it all. Best coaching, best talent. Clemson can certainly win.
Right now, I'd pick Clemson to win it all.
Yeah, so Clemson can win it all. I don't know if Ohio State can. I mean, if they were 30 points below Alabama this year with Fields. And I know Sermon got hurt early, and that was a factor as well, but it wouldn't have mattered. You know, their wide receivers are going to be great, but they're losing key components on the offensive line. So, you know, you can't say they're going to be stronger next year without Fields. They could be as good. And then A&M has no chance because of the division. North Carolina has no chance because of their conference. Cincinnati has no chance because they're group of 5. In Florida, likely less than Georgia in the SEC East. So again, it'll come down to the same old teams, but that's fine. That's life. What are you going to do? Recruit better, coach better.
Right? Yeah, but I mean, it comes down to the same old teams, but Georgia's back in there. Oklahoma will be back in there. Texas A&M at least has a shot.
You know what I thought would be cool?
You forgot Notre Dame in your top 10, Mike.
Yeah, I didn't forget them. I mean, Kyron's still in the backfield. The offensive line loses a lot. They have no skill guys outside that scare anybody.
Yeah. And
Jack Cohn's going to be their starter most likely, so forget about them. I always thought it'd be interesting. The USFL 100 years ago used to have regional drafting. So you were allowed to draft players in certain states and no one else was allowed to. And I loved it. Now, it wasn't a smart idea, but can you imagine if they did say, okay, Nick Saban's too good, let's change something and let's make kids go to schools in their home state. How amazing would and IMG doesn't count. You know, JC Latham, you got to go to Wisconsin. Okay. But how amazing would certain teams be, you know, if kids had to stay there? Like Washington would be, to me, a perennial Pac-12 contender. Because the guys, they just lose a lot of guys in state. But, you know, Tommy Brockermeyer, I'm sorry, Tommy, you have to go to Texas.
Gotta go to Texas.
Or Texas A&M. Those are your choices.
What if USC's quarterbacks were JT Daniels, Bryce Young, DJ, and CJ Stroud? That would be a pretty good haul.
Yeah. So, I mean, that's one way to change things, right? I mean, look at Florida State and Miami.
Yeah.
You know, everybody but the IMG kids would have to go to one of those schools. There'd be no Jerry Jeudy at Alabama. There'd be no Dallas Turner committing to Alabama or anything like that. And, you know, and LSU would never lose a kid in Louisiana. So DeVonta Smith would play for LSU. I always look at it and be like, that would be kind of fun, but ridiculous, but interesting, you know?
It'd be fun to have a state all-star game before they go to college.
What do you mean? Like each state plays each other?
Like in the olden days when California played Florida?
Yeah, that would be cool. Those were good games. I like those.
They were.
You know, and those kids, that was back in the day when they actually tried. Nowadays, kids wouldn't give a crap.
Yeah.
You know, they'd fly them all out to California and they'd all get their gear and half of them be hurt first day of practice.
Yeah.
Like those were dogs back in the day, like Cromartie.
And it was, they didn't have to travel every weekend to another 7-on-7 tournament. This, you know, it's like those games are still important just so everyone is on the same field at the same time. But it's like the 40th event they did that year when everyone was on the same field at the same time.
Yeah. And again, those guys are like I said, there was a different, you know, breed of guy back then. Yeah. Even the California kids with, you know, DJ Williams, guys like that they were animals.
Yeah.
It's just, there's less dogs nowadays than any time before. But Caleb Williams would have to go to Maryland. Parody.
So bad. Yeah, that'd be interesting.
Right. I you know, I would love to like pursue this somehow, but I don't want to do the work.
Right.
You know, but you know, Kamar Wheaton, I'm sorry, you can't go to Alabama. Najee, you got USC, Cal, Stanford, or UCLA. Those are your choices. Nothing else. Changes the whole landscape of college football. There are no power programs if this happens. There's parity.
Is that what you want, Mike?
No, this is fine. It's fine. Because I won money on Alabama. I bet I bet the spread. I bet the over. I bet each quarter.
Over, you just snuck in there with the over.
Yeah, but I knew I would. I mean, come on. That wasn't really. I wasn't worried. And the quarters. The only quarter I lost was the first quarter, and I think Saban or somebody had the first quarter too, because they did that hurry up play at the end of the first quarter to try to score, and the line was 6. So I'm like, it's a bad play, but I'm like, somebody's trying to help me here. But I won every other quarter, so I had a good night. Draft. So Jamar Chase or DeVonta Smith.
I think at this point you got to go DeVonta Smith.
So yeah, I disagree with you.
DeVonta Smith broke all of Jamar Chase's records.
Yes.
And Jamar Chase hasn't been playing football in a year.
Yes. And I still disagree with you.
All right.
And I'll tell you why.
And Jamar Chase was playing with a better quarterback.
Jamar Chase is bigger, stronger.
Okay.
DeVonta Smith, you still feel like he's going to break in half.
Yeah, he's still lean. Yeah.
I mean, he's super skinny. Like, not lean. Like, I know the Slim Reaper is Kevin Durant's nickname or whatever, right?
I do want to see if DeVonta Smith lifts at the combine and how many reps he can do. Is he wiry strong, or is he just kind of just silky smooth fast and breaks?
I think he's wiry strong. I think he's like Diggs. Like Diggs is super strong and nobody knows it.
Yeah.
But even Diggs coming out of college was much thicker than DeVonta Smith. So again, it's 6'1", 200 pounds, Jamar Chase versus DeVonta Smith, who's probably 6 foot and has to be like 180, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's why I have, Chase going ahead of him. Now, again, based on both had great years, crazy years. And Jamar Chase won the Biletnikoff Award, and people forget about him because he did opt out this year, but just insane statistics. Same with DeVonta Smith.
Do you think those guys get penalized for opting out?
Mm-mm.
Not at all.
No, I've talked to some NFL people, a lot of them actually. And I talked to them about, when this started happening, when Micah Parsons and Caleb Farley and those guys all started opting out early.
Yeah.
And then we had some opt back ins, but I'm like, is this going to be a question in your head? And the answer was absolutely not. 0.
Yeah, I would imagine those guys would love for them not to get banged up for a whole year. They know what they can do on the field.
Yeah. And I was surprised at the answer a little bit, like with a Parsons, because the linebacker group is just, it's him and Collins and then the rest.
Yeah.
But with a guy like Farley, who was a fringe first rounder, I was like, is this going to be a question about his competitive nature and blah, blah, blah. Right. No, they don't give a crap. So, and that's the other reason why I think Chase will go ahead of Smith. I think they'll both go top 10. I think Kyle Pitts will go top 10 too. It wouldn't surprise me if somebody went on Pitts before either of them.
Yeah, I mean, draft stuff is so hard because we were talking so much about that last year, and is it Judy? Is it whoever else? And then Ruggs goes first, and you're like, Ruggs? Come on.
Well, because he ran that 4.31 or whatever. But another thing would be cool is to allow teams to draft high school recruits.
Oh, I absolutely love that idea.
So let's pretend the group of 5 doesn't exist, because they don't in the minds of the NCAA. You got 65 Power 5 teams if you include Notre Dame, right? So whoever the worst team is, Syracuse, I don't know. You're on the clock. With the first selection, Syracuse takes Mason Smith. And poor Mason Smith has to go from Louisiana.
Oh, my God.
Syracuse, New York, and play for that horrible football team. But again, interesting,
No, what's interesting would be if NFL team, just like Major League Baseball.
And hockey, yeah.
Like hockey, or like sometimes like Google does this with people in the technology industry, is they pay you, okay, and then you go to college and you play or whatever, but you're getting paid from the NFL team that you're going to go play for. Now that provides all kinds of other problems, and the NCAA can't even figure out name, image, likeness, and they're pushing that down the road now. But
well, they're not getting paid. The baseball guys aren't getting paid. If they stay in college, they're not getting paid by the athletics. You have to turn pro, and hockey too. So
you have a contract in place, right?
you have the rights, or the rights of your contract are owned for 2 years. So in hockey, for example, you could draft a kid who's a high school senior. You have to be a certain age to be drafted. So you'll see in the NFL draft, someone will select some kid out of, a high school, or, obviously a junior league in Canada. And then he'll go on to play 2 years at, Boston College or Minnesota or Michigan or whatever. And they'll evaluate him each year. And he has a mentor, a family advisor, which is technically an agent, but no one's getting paid yet. But that agent helps him. Let's say he has a great year and wins the Hobie Baker the first year, wins a national championship, and the LA Kings want him on their roster. That's when, they call him up, so to speak. But to my knowledge, and again, I haven't followed this in 20 years. I used to follow hockey very, very closely. But they own the rights to them. And that would be interesting too. And that could get to be the case eventually. I mean, people think, eventually it's going to be 2 years and then it's going to be 1 year, which is of course true. Or you could go to that model where you could draft the kids once they turn a certain age. If they're 18 or older, you can draft them, so that Mason Smith could be drafted this year by a team that says, yeah, we're going to draft him now, and we'll see if he can make our team, after a year in college, or we're going to bring him right out of the way. That would be very interesting, because then we're tying kids to, with the 18th pick, the Cowboys select Mason Smith, and then you're like, okay, did he have a good enough year at LSU to get called up? Do they want him right away? That would be extremely intriguing, because covering hockey draft and recruiting back when I did 100 years ago was really interesting. Because again, you were scouting kids in high school, but projecting them to the pros, knowing that they would be there within a year or two.
Yeah. And who wouldn't want to play hard in college football if they had the opportunity to leave to go play in the NFL, if they chose to do that?
Well, and that's the other thing too, is like, it would change the entire strategy of the NFL, because you'd be drafting kids that wouldn't be on your roster immediately. But there's no doubt in my mind, 2 years ago, Trevor Lawrence would have been drafted. Right. Probably first overall by somebody. I mean, who had first overall? Was it Kyler Murray 2 years ago?
2 years, and then was it Daniel? I don't remember. God,
the number one overall was like Baker, then Kyler, then this past. I don't even know why I'm drawing a blank on this.
Joe Burrow.
What?
Joe Burrow.
Joe Burrow. So, but had they had the ability, you say, okay, do we want Baker or do we want Trevor Lawrence, knowing that it's going to be a couple of years? But then do you push Trevor Lawrence into the NFL too quick and then kill him? But it'd be very interesting. There's a lot of things that could be done that will never be done. But I would like to see that type of model play out in college football. I'd like to see the draft model play out in college football. Not for real, just pretend and phony and fake. Like do it with NCAA 14.
Yeah.
And throw Corey Foreman with the third pick. Duke takes Corey Foreman, and he's like,
Duke.
Well, I'm just trying to think of like the third worst team in college football.
Yeah, right.
In the Power Five, and Alabama would pick 65th. How funny would that be?
You sound like the USA Today that says, just imagine reading something that says Nick Saban and Alabama are too good for college football. We need to split them up.
Yeah. And that's stupid. But I do like the regional idea too. And I don't, like I said, not real, just fun. Like, let's go back and, think of what if Derrick Henry had to choose between playing linebacker at Florida for Will Muschamp, running back at Florida State, or running back at Miami. And those were the only choices he had. So the landscape of college football changes entirely. One
Yeah.
player.
Oh, it absolutely does.
One
It
player. You know, and DeVonta Smith can't go to Alabama. Yes, stay at LSU.
Yeah.
I mean, he'd be there with those other receivers last year, and then this year, I mean, obviously he would have come out because they don't have a quarterback. So stuff like that always intrigues me. Any other headlines going on in college football now that it's over? First of all, I'd like to say it's great we had a season.
Yes.
I mean, you know, it was very bleak in August. The Big Ten tried to ruin it all. Pac-12 tried to follow.
Yes.
I think it's very fitting that the Big Ten, you know, changed every rule in the book and then just got curb stomped in the national championship game anyways.
Right.
Because it's not that I was rooting against Ohio State. It's just that the way they, not Ohio State, but the way the Big Ten handled everything, for them to win the national championship in this pandemic year where they were the first ones to cancel would really be annoying. Don't you think?
Yeah. And the commissioner who said that it wasn't safe for Big Ten schools to play, but his son could play, then okay, let's have a season as COVID cases spiked through the fall and into the winter. Then you need 6 games. No, you need 5. Then you need 14 days. No, you need 10. Then he travels to the national championship on a Friday when the game is Monday. I mean, the hypocrisy is just evident. And it's just, at this point, it's like, just whatever. You know, if you're going to do this, we all know what you're doing and what you're talking about and what you're about, whatever else. So I'm happy that Alabama won yesterday for that reason alone.
Okay, Gorney, ready?
Okay.
Jacksonville takes Trevor Lawrence. Who do the Jets take? Number
Now,
2.
do you take a quarterback and recycle that? Is Darnold really that much of a problem? I don't think so. I think you take Penei Sewell.
So you move Becton over to right tackle.
Sewell at left.
And then still suck.
And then still suck. Or you trade down that pick and get one pick.
That's the intriguing part, is trading down, because a lot of people will want to trade up. So I still say you take Fields and blow it up. And then Sewell goes to the Dolphins. I think the Dolphins need, honestly, I think the Dolphins need a quarterback. I mean, Tua looks horrible, and I think he's done.
Horrible. Tua is going to be the future
he's done
of that franchise.
He's awful.
No.
He's awful.
They already said he's the future. They're not going to.
Yeah, because they put so much money into him. But now they're like, ugh, what are we going to do? Let's get rid of Gailey. Let's bring in another offensive coordinator, see if they can get fixed to it. They can't. The guy was made because of his receivers and the offense. I mean, he had Najee, he had Judy, he had Ruggs, he had DeVonta Smith. I mean, he had a great offensive line with Jedrick Wills and
So draft some wide receivers for him. He's a very talented quarterback.
He's not. He stinks. I'm sorry. Stinks.
You can make the same argument for Alabama's running backs. They're good because the offensive line opened up huge holes. But in the NFL, they've also done decently, like at least Derrick Henry has. And
Josh Jacobs has, but before that they didn't. But no, Tua's done.
Tua's
sorry.
Done.
What do you want from me? Stinks. I said he would stink. Didn't I say he would stink?
You did.
Of course, I said Mahomes would stink too.
Yeah, and how's that been?
That's not been well. That hasn't gone well for me at all. But I think the Dolphins need to blow it up too. And now the Dolphins are interested in trading for Deshaun Watson because Tua stinks. But
that is a trade that you just make, right? Like that. No matter how good Tua could be down the road, whatever you
do if you're the Dolphins. You don't if you're Jacksonville. You do not give up Trevor Lawrence. For Deshaun Watson.
No, yeah. If you're the Dolphins, you do that, yeah.
If you're the Jets, yes. But anybody but the Jacksonville Jaguars, you make that trade. Right. So then we go to 4 is Atlanta, which is interesting because they need a quarterback too. And then the Bengals are 5. And that's where I think you're going to see Jamar Chase go, because Jamar Chase played with Joe Burrow. They need wide receivers. They need talent for Joe. to throw to, and that's why I think he'll get the nod. And then DeVonta Smith will probably go 6 to the Eagles because they need receivers because they were smart enough. Did you read that stuff where Peterson insisted on Rieger?
Oh, did he really?
Yeah, the scouts wanted to go Jefferson and then Chin, first and second round.
This sounds like, I'm from that area. This sounds like the biggest Philadelphia spin I've ever heard in my life. Oh yeah, the coach we just fired made the wrong choice, and the scouts they picked the greatest rookie wide receiver of all time. Give me a break.
Just
He
telling
won a
you
Super Bowl 2 years ago.
What?
A Super Bowl.
Yeah, and they also took our Sega Whiteside ahead of DK Metcalf. But DK Metcalf clearly this past weekend shown he's turned into a baby. If you saw any of that stuff too. So
that was a little baby, and then they finally throw him a little bubble screen, and
they threw in the bubble screen because he was bitching so much, and then
I stepped right in front of it.
Right, but as a coach, you got to say, "Shut up."
Yeah,
shut up.
Yes.
You don't acquiesce and throw a bubble screen to a 240-pound wide receiver. He's super fast and strong, but
no.
The whole season went down the drain because of DK Metcalf for them.
So. How about this, Mike? Zach Wilson or Justin Fields first?
Justin Fields.
I agree.
And I was talking to my buddy. My buddy invited himself over last night for the championship game, and he follows the NFL but not college football. So if it was just a constant chatter in my ear about who's that kid's good, and then he's thinking about his fantasy football team for next year, like, oh, who's 22 is good, that's Najee Harris, he's going to be a first rounder, and it was just annoying.
Yeah,
but anyways, he wrote off Fields in the first 2 drives, and I'm like, Fields was a little bit erratic. The running game was what really helped him with Master Teague in there, but he's like, no, Fields gone. I'll take Wilson. I go, how much have you seen of Wilson? He goes, I've just seen him throw in highlights.
No, God.
And I'm like, Zach Wilson to me is got a great arm and he's a gunslinger, but Justin Fields, he's like, Fields is small. I'm like, he's 6'3", 230. He's like, holy crap, he's that big? Mac Jones looks 10 times bigger than him, and Trevor Lawrence looked 10 times bigger than him last week. And I'm like, well, those are big guys too.
Yeah, those are big guys too.
Did you see the picture of Mac and Trevor I put up on Twitter today?
Yeah, that was cool. I love looking at those things. Those are great pictures. And what's crazy is that's only like 4 years ago.
Yeah, Mac was a junior.
Okay.
Right? So that was between his junior and senior year. And Trevor was a sophomore.
That's incredible.
I think he was a sophomore, maybe a freshman.
He
might have been a freshman because it was 2016. So anyways, what I put that up for, and I mentioned this on Full Ride as well, is anybody who says you guys suck at evaluating talent, take that picture of that kid who looks like he's 10 years old,
right.
Make him the number 159 player in the country and a 4-star and a top 10 quarterback. And then tell me I suck. Tell me we suck. Tell me we don't know what we're doing, because he looked like, who do you look like?
It's the menace.
Like Peter Brady.
Yeah.
Like there's nothing about him that says he's ever going to get big.
Right.
His frame was nothing. His shoulders were narrow. And he looked 10 years old. So, that I put it up for scouting reasons because, figure that out, people, so it won't shut people up, but I thought it was kind of funny.
Yeah.
I think we're done. I wanted to go a half hour and we went longer.
Yeah. 90 days.
Really, TV talk. I finished Cobra Kai. Did you?
Awesome, huh?
So good. Elizabeth Shue back. Gorgeous. I was hoping she would get involved with one of them.
Yeah.
So that she'd stay, but clearly it was a guest appearance type of 2-episode thing.
Yeah.
But again, the school brawls are getting a little bit much.
Yeah, there's like an element of like gang violence going on that is a little heavy,
which I'm not against. I don't have a problem. Yeah, I have no problem with that type of violence, but it is hard to believe. I mean, they're kicking kids through windows, and nobody's getting a cut, and
Right.
nobody's getting suspended. They have a huge brawl where somebody gets put into a coma in school, and nobody gets suspended. And then they have a big fight in a soccer game after that, and nobody gets suspended. And I'm like, what the hell school is this? Like, this would be the school that Matt Corral should go to, right?
Yeah.
That's an inside joke. Nobody laugh.
But
But
yeah,
anyway,
when he went back to Okinawa and he met the girl and the guy that he fought, that was awesome.
that was awesome because the girl, how gorgeous is she? Like, she held up, huh?
Yeah,
You know,
definitely.
Ralph Macchio is 59 years old.
So Ralph Macchio in the first season of Cobra Kai was as old as Pat Morita in Karate Kid.
Yeah, and he looks really young.
That's depressing.
So here's the other part about the old scenes, because that I forgot about. That was Karate Kid 3. where he
2.
knocked his nose. I thought it was 3.
No, 2, because 3 is he fights Mike Barnes with.
Oh.
So at the end of this season, Creed calls somebody, and I'm almost certain it's Terry Silver, the guy that he used to train with, that he saved in the war.
See, I only remember the first one, and then the 2 was brought back to me when he was fighting that kid.
Yeah.
He knocked his nose, and then I thought that was a dumb ending. But the fact that we had to suspend reality and believe that, I mean, Ralph Macchio back then makes that picture of Mac Jones look like a bodybuilder, right?
Right.
So the fact that we think that he could ever hurt anybody with any sort of force is hilarious. And the fact that Ralph Macchio didn't lift a weight at all for the sequel.
Yeah.
So he was as skinny as he was in the first one.
Yeah.
And he's fighting this tough guy. And we expect him, like, live or die, man, like he could kill him.
Yeah.
You could kill anybody. First of all, none of those hits would hurt anybody.
Right.
Your little crow in the first one, nobody's going to walk right into that.
Yeah, no one's walking into the crane technique. I
Oh,
mean,
the crane. Yeah, that's right, the crane. But I will say it's a great show because of Johnny. Johnny makes the show. He's hilarious.
we agree. We
He
need to
didn't
get
know how to plug in his laptop.
Yeah,
I mean, that's Gorney-like right there.
that's not Gorney like.
That's
Come on.
very Gorney-like. I remember when you were faxing receipts blindly to some number
It was a little different than it
without
was.
filling out expense reports, just faxing them. And then you yelled at me because you were 6 months late on your expense reports. And you're like, why can't they figure this out? My name's on them.
Look, I don't understand why we have a corporate card and then we have to do an expense report. It's double the work. They already see the bill.
It was funny though.
It was
You had to
funny.
drive down to, you had to drive down to Staples from the mountain.
We used to have a boss who was like, all right, this is what you do. Just send them in. And then he never told us how to do anything. And we just had to figure it out on our own.
It's different now.
We went by, yeah, really. So that was definitely curious, but Johnny is by far the best part of that show.
Hash brown this.
Yeah. Hash
And he
brown.
thinks Facebook's gone because he threw his phone away.
I love how the time when he's writing like the 4-page thing to Elizabeth Shue, and the kid tells him that
Yeah. Yeah. And then he writes the perfect thing, and then he deletes it and said, "Not much." You?
Yeah, that's great.
He's the best character on TV right now. So I started the Queen's Gambit. I'm on episode 1.
Okay.
I'm trying to think what else I finished. I finished Your Undoing. The ending was horrible.
You thought it was lame?
I didn't like it.
Yeah.
I liked the show. Like, the 5 episodes were amazing, and Donald Sutherland was awesome.
Yeah.
But the 6th episode, the way it ended, sucked.
Did you think that it was the kid when Nicole Kidman found his violin box or whatever?
I thought, well, remember we talked, and I thought initially it was going to be either Nicole Kidman or the kid, and I'd be upset at either of them.
Yeah.
But then I thought when Sutherland became more devious,
Yeah.
I thought it might be him, which would be great. Or I thought it might be that attorney friend of hers who's a little bit weird. But the fact that none of that occurred and the ending was so bad, I just feel they had so many opportunities. Even if they decided on the killer, they could have made that so much better.
Well, he was so diabolical. Even at the last second, he thought his family was running to come be with him instead of rescuing the kid. See, that was the
Yeah,
story.
but a sociopath doesn't feel for their children either.
Right,
You
right.
see Dahmer ain't playing with his nephews and nieces, you know? It was a little hard to sell. And
Yeah,
90 Day, I love the pretty one from the Ukraine, the high maintenance one.
Oh, the one that always complains about everything.
No, I don't
Yara.
know. The one who's the one who's in Louisiana.
Yeah, Yara and Jovi.
I like her.
Yeah, she seems very sensible, and he seems like an
Tool.
alcoholic.
An alcoholic tool who goes
Yeah.
away for a month at a time to work when she's a stranger in a strange land.
And
It's
she's
like,
there 90 days.
yeah, it's like that girl from Connecticut who went on a vacation for 3 weeks
Right.
when what's his face came over. Like, oh,
Yeah, the guy from South Africa, and she went to Costa Rica.
I like Zayed. I think he's very positive. They were hard on him at the airport. I mean, they're like, oh, he doesn't seem excited. I'm like, first of all, he just flew like 80 hours.
Yeah, exactly.
And secondly, he's being very cooperative and positive.
Right.
What do you want him to do? Jump up and down? Shut up.
I know.
Stupid daughter, stupid son-in-law. And then the crazy one that's living in the middle of the woods with Mike.
Oh,
She's getting a little old, getting annoying. And that's it. Tariq has nothing to bring to the table.
And they didn't do anything with the farmer guy this past week.
I don't like him either.
Yeah, I don't know either. This season isn't as good as it's been.
Did you get Discovery Plus or whatever it is?
Not getting it.
You're not going to stream everything?
No, can't do it.
There's a lot of good stuff on there too. Like not just TLC, but like we're talking Discovery documentaries and stuff. I haven't got them. My wife got it. So
they took The West Wing and The Office off of Netflix, and it's like, boy, Netflix, you don't have much left for me.
have you seen Breaking Bad?
Yeah, saw Breaking Bad. Loved it.
Have you seen Better Call Saul?
Better Call Saul, didn't like it. Too boring. Dragged too much.
All right. Well, what should I watch next? I need a new series other than The Queen's Gambit.
Did you see either one?
Yeah, I saw both. They're awesome.
Oh, okay. Better Call Saul is
amazing. Awesome. Better Call Saul is awesome.
No, Better Call Saul is terrible. It's so boring.
Oh,
so boring. And I don't need action. I don't even like action movies. But something has to happen to continue the story along, not to find one character after a season. I mean, come on.
I get it. I get it. I mean, it's been 4 seasons and he's still not Saul. That's a little slow, but it's still very well written. And when you see guys like Tuco and his uncle and all that stuff, like and Mike back in the beginning, it's awesome.
You see Mad Men?
Before we go,
Mad Men.
I watched it. I didn't like it.
The ending is
7 seasons of it.
Did you watch the finale, the series finale? It's great. What other shows?
Wasn't great.
Have we watched?
You guys suck. You got nothing for me.
Well, there's no time.
Well, you know what's coming out is The Boys is coming out again. Dead to Me is coming out again. Have you watched Dead to Me?
Dead to Me, yes. Dead to Me season 1 is hilarious. Yeah. Dead to Me season 2 is a stretch.
But season 3 is coming.
Season 3, okay, nice.
Season 3 is coming.
Oh, you know what the best show that I watch is Billions.
Yeah, I got to start watching that because I like that actor. He was in Homeland. You've never watched Homeland, have you?
Yeah.
Oh, Homeland's amazing.
Did you watch Boardwalk Empire?
No, I don't know what that's about.
Very good. It's about like 1920s kind of prohibition Atlantic City.
Are there any other shows with the girl who gets murdered in The Undoing?
That I do not know.
I will watch whatever she's in. I don't care what it is. And she's Italian, I believe. So if it has subtitles, I'm still down.
Yeah.
I'm still a little smitten, must say. So
you're just gonna keep watching episode 1 over and over again?
No, there's just 2.5 minutes of episode 1 over and over again.
All right, I know what doing that.
All right, let's get out of here. He's at Adam Gordy on Twitter. He still refuses to get on Instagram, which is foolish. I'm at Rivals Mike on Twitter, and I'm on Instagram at Rivals Godfather. I am also on TikTok for you young fans at Rivals Godfather. Do not shake your head. I'm not dancing. I'm breaking things down. I'm up over 100 followers now. I'm trying to get verified.
Awesome.
TikTok's going to blow up. And if it does, then I might start dancing. So just follow him on one social media platform. Although you do have a handle on that other thing, right?
Yeah, I do on Instagram, just so I could watch the Instagram live videos.
No. I'm talking the conservative one.
Parlor?
Yeah. Follow Gorney on Parlor.
Parlor is shut down. I'm on Gab and Signal now. The other one.
On Parlor, he's a shotgun lover 28. Just keep an eye on him. Somebody told me I should get a Parlor account the other day.
Parlor is no more. It's not.
I know. Well, you can apparently still download it from the website, but not the app store.
Oh,
but
geez.
Either way, I have lost 200 and some odd followers, at least, maybe 300, ever since the raiding of the Capitol.
The insurrection. Yeah.
Yeah. So I miss my bots, first of all. Secondly, I miss my crazy conservatives who are jumping off Twitter because Trump got banned from Twitter. Don't punish me for that. It's not my fault. So
Twitter said they took down 70,000 QAnon profile pages on Twitter. Imagine that.
Did you lose any?
Yeah, I actually did, and I thought that was like signing day and that kind of stuff, and 2021 recruits who followed me, following me, but yeah, that must have been some sort of purge.
It's a bot / lunatic purge.
I'm going to Parlor.
And the general consensus of my followers is on the lunatic fringe.
Right. Yeah.
I can't afford to lose any of those. So, anyways, hopefully they come back. But that's it. Follow him on Twitter. Follow me on Twitter, TikTok, Instagram. What else should I get? Is there another one?
I think that's it. That's good for now.
Should I get on Reddit?
Reddit? Yeah. I follow the Wall Street Bets Reddit. It's fun.
What's that one we bought for $7 billion and sold for like 70,000?
Tumblr.
Tumblr. Should I get on Tumblr?
Tumblr, get on Flickr, Tumblr, all the hot ones.
All these great purchases. Woo! All right, we're out. See ya.